Welcome to the Midnight Founders Podcast, a national podcast focused on entrepreneurship. We are your hosts, AJ Rounds from Rev Road and Jake McHarg from CB Vault.
Here at the Midnight Founders Podcast, we focus on telling the behind-the-scenes stories of what makes a successful entrepreneur.
Well, we're super excited to be here on another episode of the Midnight Founders Podcast. And today, we're lucky to have in studio Bruce Miller, President, CEO, founder of PROFi, Professional Financial Planning. He started this company multiple years ago with his co-founder, his wife, Mary. She's amazing if you haven't met her. And we're excited to be here and hear about your story and your journey of entrepreneurship, Bruce. So welcome to the studio.
Thank you. It's a great opportunity to be here.
That's awesome. Well, tell us, 60 seconds, what you do and what you're passionate about, and what is PROFi?
Thanks for asking. Well, PROFi stands for Professional Financial. That's where we get professional financial planning. And we help people build and live amazing lives of significance. And there are 5 real key concerns that high net worth people have. The first one is just to make smart money decisions. And then taxes, they want to mitigate taxes. And then take care of their heirs is another important thing. Protect assets from being unjustly taken. And then finally, magnify charitable gifts and charitable giving. And those are really how we help people live an amazing life of significance.
I love that that's how you started, living an amazing life of significance and helping people maximize their value to the world. I mean, I love that you started out that way. Why did you come up with that statement to kind of open everything up?
It's because a lot of times people get caught up in percentages and returns and things like that. And when we do like a client profile, we ask some very interesting questions. One of the questions is, what does wealth mean to you? And I would even ask, what does wealth mean to you?
Go for it, Jake.
In my mind, we've already had this conversation. But in my mind, I think the thing for me is financial freedom.
Yeah.
I would probably say the same, financial freedom, the ability to give back and help others in the way that you want to, whether that means resources or your time. You usually can't do those things if you don't have additional resources or time to give.
Right. Some people say it's discretionary time, just to be able to do what you want to do. Then there's another thought about what is really family wealth. So, for example, we talk about financial capital, but financial capital is really only a means to an end. The end would be, having enough money to live the way that you want to live on a regular basis. But real capital and family wealth is like the spiritual capital, the intellectual capital. It's the capital, the financial capital helps you develop those other capitals that you can pass from generation to generation, those values that transfer. And that's where, like, when you're trying to help your family grow and develop, you want them to become self-reliant. If you just give them money, it can disappear pretty quickly. So teaching them how to be smart with money and how to develop themselves through these other forms of capital is a very important concept. So it's an educational process for us to work with our clients and help them see what wealth means to them.
What something you said is interesting to me, Bruce Miller. I was having a conversation with Jeff Flam, last week or so. I don't know if you know him, but he's an amazing entrepreneur and has done a lot of cool developments in real estate in Hawaii and around the country. And he said, because he made his wealth early on in his life, and so he had to carefully plan to make sure the trusts were set up in the way that his kids could benefit from it, but not live off of it.
Right.
So what is your advice to the audience here that in a way to kind of preserve that family wealth, but not spoil your family and ruin them, right? Because I know that's a fine line, right?
Right.
So how do you do that?
So there's an old adage that's shirt sleeves in 3 generations. You get the first generation who starts to create wealth. The second generation builds on it. The third generation spends it, and the fourth generation is starting over like from
They're
scratch.
broke. They're bankrupt.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are different ways to set it up. If you, for example, put money into a charitable fund, and there are a number of ways to do that. I mean, there are donor-advised funds, there are foundations, there are trusts that you can put into place, and then you teach your kids how to give away instead of how to consume. And I think we have a real problem with consumerism right now. It's all about me and what more can I have, when really a tremendous amount of satisfaction comes from giving and helping to build up others. So that's one way. There are other forms of trusts that you can use to protect assets. Dynasty trusts. The most common kind of trust is called a testamentary trust. It's a trust that you have where you put your assets in title. So you name your bank account, the name of your trust or whatever, and then it prevents it from going through probate. It prevents it from public scrutiny if you should pass away. It also gives instructions about how those assets should pass, and that who the people are, the people that are responsible for helping to make sure that the trust instructions are followed.
Very good.
So I just looked over your LinkedIn profile this morning, and it seems like you've been in kind of wealth management for most of your career. You did some in IT, it looked like, or information systems at the beginning. But what kind of led you to this? Why are you doing what you're doing right now?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, and I'm going to open a door here on a discussion that may go a different direction. It's totally up to you, but my parents were both teachers, and they didn't make a lot of money. My dad had a doctorate degree, and as a reading specialist, he still didn't make a lot of money. And so in the early 80s, they had the opportunity to go teach in Alaska, and that's where they actually started making some money. So we grew up with very little. And then when they did start to get some money, I watched how my dad would make some decisions that I didn't feel like were actually going to fulfill the goals that he really wanted to accomplish.
Oh, interesting. As a child, you saw that.
Yeah, well, and I was a teenager when we moved
Okay.
up there. So, yeah, I saw some of that. And it never really crossed my mind to go into financial planning. I went to BYU. I got a degree in business, in information systems. I worked at WordPerfect and Novell. I left there to go to Electronic Data Systems in Michigan, which is owned by General Motors. It was Ross Perot's company. And then I came back to Utah to work at what was Bank of American Fork at the time and helped develop their online banking system. So I had all that technology in the background. And then in 2008, I was a chief information officer at the Bank of American Fork, and I just was ready for something new, a new challenge. And if you remember 2008, that was a challenge in and of itself. But my brother-in-law and I spun off from the bank and did our own little startup in 2008. It was going to be a high-end bill pay system for high net worth people, where we would be a drop box. They'd send us their bills. We'd scan them. We'd pay them through electronic money transactions, and then they could look up any time and not have to worry that their bills were paid because we were doing it for them. We didn't get any traction. And so in 2009, the investors who had sponsored this whole idea told us that they wanted to go a different direction. And we had 3 different products in place, and one of them, which was called Financial Guard, actually became like a robo-advisor. We would do a direct stream from Morningstar and analyze funds for people. Say, you've got a 3-star rating on this fund, but an equivalent fund is a 5-star rating. And that company took off, and that's where I really got introduced to what was going on in the investment advisor world. And what I heard was pretty scary, honestly. I mean, there was a gentleman that I knew from back east who had some difficulties, and he told me that because he was an advisor, a salesman, And he said, if somebody would call me up and they were small money, they didn't have a lot of money, then I would be like, yeah, we have this special fund that I was just going to call you, and we were going to talk about this and that, and let me get you in that fund. And then they put them in a load fund which had high fees, but had no alignment with what the client's best interest was. And it was almost like a punishment for interfering with what he was doing on a regular basis. I mean, that's kind of how he made it sound. And so the industry has a problem for how they incentivize actually helping people make smart money decisions. When it's all about the sales process and what incentivizes an advisor, then it can conflict with actually helping to provide the best interest advice to the client. So
because sometimes they're just looking for the highest commission. Is that right? Is that the problem?
That's right. Yeah. So we built our company based on the idea that we wouldn't have conflicts of interest. So we do an asset under management approach. We charge a fee on all the assets we manage, and then we diversify the portfolio to help match the client's goals. And it doesn't matter what those are, because it's not going to be a different price depending on what the assets are.
So then your incentive, I like this approach, because then your incentive is to, grow the portfolio as large as you can, because the bigger it is, better for them, and it's better for you too.
Absolutely.
So your interests are aligned at that point.
Yes, yeah.
I like that.
And that's just the making smart money decisions. But then there's the advanced planning part, which is the tax mitigation, the trusts, it's charitable giving, and other things that I mentioned earlier.
That's amazing. Bruce, let's go back a little bit in the story to where your parents, they were school teachers, lots of education.
Yeah.
Not a lot of, compensation for that, unfortunately, which is kind of sad that our culture doesn't value that as more than they do. But they moved to Alaska. What part of Alaska did you move to? We got to get into this just a little bit. This is great.
Okay, so we moved to a tiny little Eskimo village. And when I say tiny, it's like 200 people. In the most northern point of Alaska is called Barrow, and we were 50 miles south of that. The name of the town is called Atkasuk. Atkasuk.
Amazing.
It's on the Mead River. The Mead River High School is where I graduated.
You were top of your class.
Top of my class. A class of one, literally. So I'm in a class by myself. Yeah.
Number one student. Valedictorian and everything.
Valedictorian, yeah. And
probably had scholarships just coming at you.
Well, I did put it on my application to BYU, so I don't know if it helped me get in. But
valedictorian, they didn't even check to see. That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
So what was that like, that transition from, where were you growing up at the time?
Washington State.
Okay, so it wasn't a crazy transition, or I guess it probably was.
It was a lot different. It's a subsistence lifestyle there. So this was a traditional hunting and fishing village. They got oil revenues, so they had money that they could build nice things like a brand new high school, multi-million-dollar high school for
for one
very
student.
Small population of students. And so they hunted caribou. They fished. They hunted waterfowl, and it was amazing to experience their lifestyle and to integrate into their culture. So, and we loved it. We loved actually participating with them, doing the Eskimo dances, participating in their festivals and things like that. And so we were actually really well received on the North Slope.
So it wasn't lonely, even though the town is only 200 people.
Yeah. You get into late November, and it's all dark. So 24 hours a day, and that happens through the end of January, early February, and you start to get a little bit of light again. And then you go through the thaw in May and in June, where the rivers break up and the ice floats down. Then you get all the fish that are spawning. And the waterfowl that come in, it's amazing. Thousands and thousands of waterfowl coming in from all over. Ducks, geese, swans. Of all different varieties, and just fill the air.
Far north, huh?
Yeah,
wow.
It's amazing. Amazing.
And so summer's what, 2 months maybe?
Well, the sunlight is out from mid-May to towards the end of August and mid-September. So you've got 24-hour sun the whole time. And that is actually, it keeps things warm. They're small, fragile plants that grow up there, and all the snow melts, but there is a layer of permafrost that never melts. So the lakes are all shallow. They don't go very deep. And in the wintertime, the lakes freeze solid. And then that's how they would bring in cargo on C-130 airplanes. They'd land on frozen lakes and then deliver the cargo.
And that's the only way to get in and out. There's no freeways or anything up there, right?
No, airplane was the primary way, but in the wintertime, you could take a snow machine and hope you didn't, get lost.
In the thousands of miles of wilderness, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. What a cool upbringing.
Yeah,
Okay, so
interesting.
fast forward now, you said that you started that first finance company with your brother-in-law,
Yeah,
and then PROFi you said you started with your wife.
right.
So where is that transition? Take us through that.
Okay, thank you. So that company, Financial Guard, ultimately sold to Legg Mason, which is a UK financial company.
Oh, cool. So you've had a great exit under your belt then.
It was a small exit for me because at the time when we had that kind of vision departure, we'd already developed a little bit on the technology on what we would call now a robo-advisor. But then I had to go find what I was going to do. And because I had learned about kind of this dissonance of what was provided in the investment advisor space and what people actually wanted, I worked for a friend of mine who helped serve physicians and surgeons, and he's a certified financial planner and a fee-only financial planner, which means that you don't have any other kind of compensation besides what the client knows, and it's a direct fee on the assets. But so I worked there for 4 and 5 years, actually. And then I went to another firm for just a little while and thought that we could do it better in both cases, and that's how we started PROFi. Is in 2018 we formalized PROFi as an SEC registered investment advisory firm, and we've had great growth and success since.
Well done.
Thank you.
Does that mean you've gone through your series, what is it, series 6 or 60 or something, all those licensing and everything?
Great question. So, and people,
Did I say that right?
It's series 65.
65, there you go. And 67
advisor.
And all those,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So somebody who is going to sell different kinds of investments may have to take the series 6 or the series 7, but an investment advisor is the series 65.
There you go.
Okay. And so there's kind of two different standards, the fiduciary standard and the standard of suitability. And a broker-dealer has, the people that work at a broker-dealer are called registered representatives. The people who work at a registered investment advisory firm are called investment advisor representatives. I know that's confusing. But the difference is that an RIA or an investment advisor is supposed to uphold the fiduciary standard, whereas the sales side, which is the broker-dealer side, is the standard of suitability. So it's a lower standard for whether it actually meets the client's needs. You have to discuss suitability with the client, but if the client decides they want to go through it, you don't have to explain that, hey, this might not work out for you as well as you'd hoped or whatever. But on the fiduciary side, you're like, here are some options, and this really looks like it's going to be in your best interest. You always get to make your decision about what you want to do, but we have a duty and obligation to provide best interest solutions for the client to choose.
So a different level of accountability.
Yeah, totally.
So Bruce, then how are you using what you've built with PROFi? How are you furthering the cause of entrepreneurship with some of the people you're working with, and how do you help business owners enhance what they're doing?
That's a great question. And I have to say that one of the most thrilling parts of my job is to see the entrepreneurial process for each different business. You've got different personalities in different businesses, and a lot of times the people that we work with, they're like, how am I going to either, save money, not pay as much taxes, or I'm getting ready to exit. What is the strategy for exit so I can reduce my taxes? How do I build my revenue or my numbers in a way that I can sell at a greater multiple? There's a designation out there called the Certified Exit Planner Advisor now that's becoming a really popular designation. We have that in our firm right now, as well as the Certified Financial Planner.
What does that certified exit? What did you call it?
Certified Exit Planner, CEPA.
Yeah, and that's someone that if an entrepreneur is ready to sell their business, they come and consult with.
Yeah,
with you.
It's kind of coupled with like the EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. It has some of those same principles in it. It looks at what are the ratios, the financial ratios that you need to improve in order to have a better exit multiple. And so we help clients look at that and then help them also decide, well, if you're charitably inclined, we can really help reduce the overall capital gains tax on the exit that you're going to go through as well. So it's a holistic and comprehensive process that we help people through. And it varies based on personality. I mean, here's a story. We had a family that was wanting to transfer the company to their son, but the son's one of the owner's brothers was also part of the company, and there was an amount of stock that had been promised to the uncle, this guy's uncle.
That sounds sticky already.
Yeah, so we helped to navigate a really good compromise, because ownership sometimes is really not as great as some people make it sound. It's got a lot of headache and it's got liabilities associated with it. So anyway, it turned out that because we handled it in such a sensitive way that everybody wound up getting what they wanted, and the owners were very happy with the outcome. So just navigating relationships is a key thing in our industry. And it's actually transitioning more, not just to that, but to what we call behavioral finance. And that's, why do people make the decisions that they make? And can we help them understand themselves well enough to avoid making bad decisions?
I'm really interested in this side of things. Yeah. This is actually where I was going to go with my next question anyways. What's like, I know you see people probably later in their careers than you would like to see them for the first time. So what are some of the mistakes that people are making early on in their lives that you would just say, hey, don't do this?
Yeah.
Or do this earlier in your career?
Well, I spent 2 years down in Arkansas, and there was a ham bone cartoon, which goes back years and years, kind of capturing the Southern culture. And so this guy, Hambone, would have wise sayings. One of the sayings he had was, if your outgo is greater than your income, then your upkeep is going to be your downfall. So, like I mentioned, we're in this consumerism type environment, society right now. Saving for a rainy day and having an emergency fund so that you can borrow from yourself to pay yourself back is such a critical thing. I would say everybody needs to have an emergency fund first off.
How many months worth?
If you have, the rule of thumb is that you have one person working, you need 6 months of your living expenses. And we say living expenses but there's some that say you don't need to have all living expenses, because if you're out of work, you're going to cut down your expenses anyway. But we like to just say 6 months of living expenses. If you have 2 people working, then 3 months. So that's kind of the rule of thumb on an emergency fund. But then start saving. I mean, I think Benjamin Franklin said, money makes money, and the money that makes money makes more money. Einstein called, I think, compound interest the seventh wonder of the world, or something like that.
The most magical formula
Yeah,
ever, or something.
yeah.
I've heard that.
So the sooner somebody starts saving to have compound interest, and when I say saving, I mean really investing in a retirement account or putting the money to work in a market account, then it can grow over time. We have a doctor client who paid his children, okay? And then he also contributed to a Roth IRA for them. One of the benefits of a Roth IRA is that you can actually make a distribution out of it penalty-free in order to put money down on a home, okay? But when I ran the calculation for him and showed him, yeah, you could pull that money out and put it down on a home, but if you just let it build, if you worked and got $7,000 a year from the age 16 to the age of 30 and put it in a Roth and didn't even touch it until you got to age 70, you'd have more than $2 million of tax-free money by that time. So you could pull it out and put it down on a house, or you could just let it ride and have tax-free money of over $2 million. So
start
saving.
today.
Start today.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another saying that's like, the best time to plant an oak tree or acorn is 20 years ago or today, So just get started.
That's awesome.
Great.
I was going to ask you, going back to what you said earlier too about behavioral, investing. It feels like in this industry that even though you're doing a lot of financial planning, you're also doing a little bit of therapy work, right?
Definitely.
And you're kind of managing relationships, like you talked about in your story earlier.
Yeah, totally.
How much do those intersect, and how much do you feel like it's swinging to that behavioral therapist side?
More and more, and there's more and more research that's coming out. In fact, one of my favorite authors is a guy from BYU who works for a company called Orion. He's a behavioral PhD. His name is Daniel Crosby, and he just released a book. I got a preview copy of it. It's called The Soul of Wealth. It's basically 50 essays on what is wealth and some really great advice about just thinking about wealth. So I'd recommend getting it, The Soul of Wealth. But going forward, I forgot the question actually.
Well, just that behavioral,
behavioral
side
side,
versus
right. Yes.
versus financial planning.
Yeah, so it's going more and more that direction. And people have these, agreed gland. When they hear about an investment and they want to brag about having a performance that's better than anybody else, they may...
Which is human nature. We always do that, right?
Right.
If we figured it out, we're going to tell everyone, right?
Yeah, right. But they have a tendency to chase after high returns. And that process of chasing, they never will discuss the huge losses that they've also had. They don't talk about what's the average compound annual return you've had every year on your investments, because they're just trying to hit it big. It's almost like gambling, and that endorphin release of people who've day traded or that do day trade, or speculative investing. They're trying to hit it big on something. It can become addictive, and timing the market is less important than time in the market, right? So if you start today, and even if you put it in a passive fund like an S&P 500 or a broad-based fund and just let it grow over time, then you're probably going to do really well over time. But if you're trying to chase, then you're going to have a lot of ups and downs, a lot of volatility. And I learned that the hard way too, actually, before I got in the industry. So here's a quick story.
We love it. Go.
Okay. And that is, I started playing, when we moved here from Michigan, I was playing basketball in the morning, and I met somebody who was with a broker dealer, so standard of suitability. And he's like, hey, have you ever heard of options? And I'm like, well, not really. What do you mean? Well, it's there's put options, there's call options. I mean, there's different things that you can buy, but you don't have to buy the stock. You just buy the right to buy the stock. And if it goes up and it goes big, then, you can make a lot of money. So we had just sold our home in Michigan, and I had this extra money. We were going to invest in a home here. And I didn't tell my wife that, hey,
Oh, no.
hey, I'm going to get us a bigger bathroom or a bigger whatever, because I'm going to invest this money on a very short-term basis. And I was lucky to get half of it back, because the options expired. It was the market tanked. It wasn't in the money, so to speak. So I had to confess, and that was a hard day. But what I'm getting at there is chasing returns leads to making poor decisions. It all comes back to how do you manage the behavior. And a lot of times our wives can be very good sounding boards for us because they tend to be, generally speaking, a little more conservative than men. And that's a validated statistic.
I'm just putting all the pieces together. So the investment that he made without his wife, and then she joined him to do investing for other people.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, well, it went well our first time. Let's just jump in with both feet.
Yeah.
Your wife sounds amazing.
She's a good
sounds
lady.
very
Amazing.
supportive.
Yeah, she's a great
so
lady.
She is great.
That's awesome.
And I even went down and talked to her dad about it. And he said, well, you know what? I'm going to tell you that we've all made mistakes, and I just look at this as a great financial learning opportunity. You've got a degree in bad investing. So
You learned how not to do it.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
bought some education.
I'm really interested in your time with the startup that didn't move forward, the investors that kind of went other directions.
Yeah.
So a lot of the companies that listen to this are early stage entrepreneurs. They're probably thinking about getting investing from outside sources,
Right.
VC or angel or whatever.
Right.
What did you learn from that process, and what advice do you have for companies that are looking at bringing in outside investment?
That's a great question. Don't think in formalizing terms. And what I mean by that is you think, okay, we got to have a CEO, we got to have a chief marketing officer, we need a chief financial officer. Because if you try to put that team together, it's going to burn through your capital pretty quick. You got to be scrappy and wise and steal with your eyes to learn things and then make it happen. And then once you start to have the success, then that's when you can maybe consider bringing somebody else on. Try to be a little bit more successful in your enterprise before you actually bring on too much equity from outside sources is what I mean.
So bootstrap it as long as you
Yeah,
can.
bootstrap it as long as you can. If
I think
possible.
I think the last 5 years there's just been, maybe the last 18 months has been different, but before that there was 4 or 5 years where you could just raise as much money as you wanted, and it didn't matter how much money you were burning. It was like, we'll just raise again in the future. And I think those times are,
I don't think
they're
they're coming
behind
back.
us.
Yeah.
They are unrealistic valuations that don't even have a basis for why we valued things. Remember in 2000 when the tech bubble was before it burst, there was some weird stuff going on out there about why things were valued the way that they were.
Well, I think we had the same thing in 2021.
Yeah.
There was a lot of crazy high valuations. The market was really frothy. But I think, I've heard this advice from other entrepreneurs, and I think it's crucial right now, especially at this point in the market where people just need to be really scrappy, really lean, and get as far down the road as they can without taking outside money.
And I'm just going to say
Agreed.
that I love RevRoad. I love the model that RevRoad has where they will help you with all of those other things, in exchange for some equity. But you got to have a good, promising going concern in order to participate in something like
So you don't have to hire those executives that you were just
exactly.
talking about.
Yeah.
And we appreciate your support, Bruce, as one of our investors and supporters. And thanks so much for being a part of that ecosystem.
My pleasure. I love the vision and the dream.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Bruce, I mean, I love the I love the stories of you're an employee, you're working for a company, right? Then you transition to your own thing, and then you build your own thing. How did that transition go for you? Because it sounds like you were tired at Alta Bank and you didn't want to just be an employee anymore and work for someone else and build their dreams. You wanted to build your own. So how did you make that transition then to go from an employee to a business owner, and then even to the next level where you're expanding and growing your enterprise? I mean, how did that work for you?
Well, it's a lot of late nights, and
All those midnight
mornings,
founder moments, right?
Yeah, and you're trying to figure things out. In fact, when we look to hire somebody, we pose a problem for them to solve, and we listen to how they would solve the problem. And we're looking for a phrase that they would figure it out. It's like, that's what entrepreneurism is to me. It's, I got to figure this out. And market conditions can change, financial arrangements can change, competitive environments change how you have to look at what you're doing, but figuring it out is what it's all about, and doing it in a way that also can help you earn a living. So my transition was like a bold leap of faith to go out and say, we are going to try this business that we don't even know if it exists out there really, and build a technology around it. And then when we got no traction on the marketing side, we had to go find a different way. And a new team was brought in that had more experience than us. And they basically nurtured it along for another 6 years before it actually sold. So we were out by then, and we still had equity, but it was diluted over that time. So it wasn't a huge exit for us, but it was something.
I'm sure you learned tons of lessons in that process.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure it helped shape the next ventures.
I learned that you got to sell. You got to sell before you even have the product. Find out what the people are wanting, so that you can actually build it a little bit better. Because if you've got no sales, you're not going to have the revenue to continue to fund the business.
It's the best way to have market validation, right?
It really is. And what's interesting is we find that often at RevRoad too. The founders that have more sales skills than just technical skills, they typically tend to do better.
Yeah.
Not because not because they're better in any way, just that they can find the revenues easier than the tech folks can.
Right.
So,
I mean, some of my favorite stories that we've heard on the podcast, this goes back to probably episode 4 or 5. We had a company on that, it's called Baywatch, and they do.
it's not what you're thinking though.
They have cameras that review service bays at automotive shops.
Yeah, right.
So it takes a video of the car going in and then the car coming out in case there's any damage done to the vehicle while it's in there.
Gotcha.
Because apparently automotive dealerships and car shops lose a ton of money every year to claims that they damaged a vehicle.
Oh, interesting.
And so this helps them save money.
Yeah.
But they sold their first product before they had ever created it.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, how long is it going to take us to build this? And they were like, oh, it'll probably be 6 weeks. And so they sold it to the first dealership, and then they were like, okay, we'll build it. And they got money and then built it.
Let's get out the duct tape. And
So I think they're the ultimate
funny.
example of, from our show, they're the ultimate example of validating it before you build it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I have all these ideas, and if I chased every one of them, I would go nowhere, fast. But I love to think about what's possible. And one of the things that I love about AI is I would develop a texting service so that it knew the profile of the person I was texting. It was just part of the contact information. And then I would reply with AI in the language that they would best understand. Like if they're a red personality, type A, just short and sweet, be brief, be bright, be gone. If they're more social or conversational,
That's funny.
then give them a little bit longer reply. And then just when I'm in maybe a yet to be recognized fault of mine with my wife, meaning I haven't discovered that I was wrong yet. That's really what I'm saying. Then I could have a reply back in the right frame and the right tone to settle things more quickly.
So there was a Instagram post, and it was about a husband and wife texting each other, and it was this exact same thing. He said he wanted an AI that he could just send a short and sweet text, and then it would get to her with all of the details that she wanted, and then her text would come in with all the details, and it would just get boiled down to just the details he wanted.
Classic. Oh,
So
man, I love that.
so
Anyway.
I think you should build it. It would be great.
I don't have the time.
Bruce, what's next for you? What are you excited about in the future? What are you working towards?
We're working towards building a great little think tank that serves business owners comprehensively. And not just business owners, but distinguished families and retirees who are looking for trusted, sound advice to guide them towards their goals. And we want to have a company that gets, when you talk about branding and laddering, and who do you think of as at the top of the ladder for providing holistic, comprehensive, trusted advice? That's where we're going. And we're moving at a good pace, but it's organic growth, and it's not we're not growing faster than what we have the ability to keep up with. So,
Good position to be in.
yeah.
And who do you look towards, Bruce, for inspiration, or who do you follow? Who do you learn from that you could help the audience maybe find that person as well?
When it comes to my profession, I like this Daniel Crosby quite a bit. When it comes to personal, my wife is my best friend and advisor. When it comes to spiritual, I really admire a guy named Russell Nelson.
We know
He's had
him
an
well.
amazing career
Yes.
and service.
Amazing career as a professional and then as a spiritual leader.
Yes,
He's done
right.
both, yeah.
And my wife saw this little Instagram post, and I don't remember what the exact question was, but like when you think about what it is that is most meaningful to you about life, what is that thing? And I thought about that with her, and I said, I want to wake up every day and experience wonder. And if I'm a naturally curious person. And part of my job is experiencing wonder through the situations and the lives of the people that we serve. But I love to experience wonder. I love to take pictures of beautiful vistas. I love to travel to places that inspire me.
Go on cruises to
Go
Alaska.
on cruises to Alaska. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So those kinds of things. So that kind of encapsulates, I think, my perspective on life is it is wonderful. And I love to experience wonder.
Experience wonder. I've never heard that. I do love that. That's a really great coin.
And then I will say, too, that I think that the name, maybe the biblical term, and forgive me for being incorrect on this, but maybe in Hebrew, the word miracle actually is defined as wonder. So it's almost like experiencing miracles, experiencing wonder on a day-to-day basis, looking for it and letting it bless you.
That is so
letting
cool.
it bless me. Yeah.
Well said.
Okay, I want to, before we wrap up, I have to know from your LinkedIn profile, the ballet.
Thank you for asking about the ballet. The Utah Metropolitan Ballet is probably one of the least recognized gems of Utah Valley. It has been around for 40 years, and my daughter danced with Jackie's School of Ballet and then the Utah Metropolitan Ballet. And because of her participation, I kind of fell in love with helping the ballet. And so I'm the chairman of the advisory board of the ballet. And so basically we help promote through some financial support and awareness the ballet. They just did an amazing Wizard of Oz ballet, and if you haven't ever been, I recommend that you go. If you've got money as part of that magnifying charitable gift and you want to share it with the ballet, I know that they could use the support. But these are incredible dancers that come from all over the world, and as also part of our own homegrown Utah County. So it's beautiful artistry and human performance, and I fell in love with it because my daughter danced there, and it's an amazing and beautiful skill.
Awesome. Yeah, I had to ask. I saw it on your LinkedIn profile, and I was like, I wonder what the backstory is with this.
Part of that wonder mantra.
It
gives you wonder, right?
And you're giving back. I love
Yeah.
that. So I'm sure, that's awesome. Practicing what you preach.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do people reach out to you? And then is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't touch on?
Well, thanks for asking. So I sing a little bit sometimes. Like I'll sing an Elvis song every once in a while. I can't read.
Are you going to bust one out right now?
No.
Bruce, come on, let's go.
This would be a first.
It's
Let's
a
hear
jingle,
Let's do
though. It's
it.
like what our phone number is. And I don't know how I got lucky to get this, but the phone number is 801-701-2345.
Nice.
Wow, nice.
So it's pretty easy, 801-701-2345. That's one way you can get a hold of us, or visit us at thepfc.com, which is the Professional Financial Company. That's the full name, thepfc.com. Or we just moved to Center Street in Orem, 384 West Center. And if you drive by, you'll see our sign on the outside of the building.
It's a really beautiful office. So
Yeah.
you guys have done a good job.
Thank you. Yeah. And we'd love to help people. So
Awesome.
Very
Well, thanks
good.
for being with us.
yeah, thank you guys.
This has been fun, Bruce. Take care. Good luck with everything.
The Midnight Founders Podcast is hosted by Rev Road and CB Vault. CB Vault is the entrepreneurship arm of Central Bank.
And Rev Road is a venture services sweat equity partner where we help your company grow faster. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to the podcast and share it with all of your contacts. Thanks for listening.